Well, now I'd like to invite Professor Yuko Murayama from Japan. And thank you very much for your being with us. And just let's go for the... Yes, thank you.
Só para os estudantes da minha turma, eu gostaria que vocês fiquem para essa palestra e a próxima. São duas palestras, tá?
Thank you. It was some time.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's almost, it's over 5 p.m. now. I'm from Tokyo. It's 5 a.m. So you understand how sleepy I am, okay? I try not to fall asleep. Okay, this time it's a great pleasure for me to present our work of IT for disaster management. I myself did my PhD in the internet at the University College London, in London, long time ago. Then I shifted to network security and then some psychological aspect of security, the sense of security, trust. And then 8 years ago, when I was working for a northern university in Japan, they have this big mega earthquake. And what happened was that there was no IT system to support disaster management. So I said, we computer scientists should look at more this part of research area. So that's how I started looking at IT for disaster management. So incidentally, this is 8 years ago in April. So mega earthquake happened and tsunami happened in March. So 1 month later, everything is destroyed yet. There is April is in North. It's cherry blossom season. So nature is very strong. Even many people died, but the tree keeps blooming. So it's a very sort of impressive scenery. Okay. So in Brazil, what happened? I looked up internet, what kind of disaster you had. I don't know if you know of it, but in January, the end of January, you had this is Salvador, but what happened is here, there was a dam rupture in Brumendino, somewhere. And this said, this looks like a natural disaster, but actually I don't know. Because in 2015, at the same place, you had the same sort of a problem. So if they fixed the problem at that time, probably it never happened. So some part of the disaster is not only natural, but man-made disaster as well. So the word disaster includes terror and everything man-made and natural. But in my country, every month we have a natural disaster, small or big. We have many earthquakes. We have we don't have a typhoon, just a strong flood. That made a disaster too. So it's very strange these days. And in Europe, in Austria, there was absolutely no disaster before, but nowadays climate changes. They have a flood or something like that. So we have to be, very aware everything would happen. So you have to be very prepared. Okay. So 80 years ago, what happened? It's Friday, so the end of the week. And it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and 11th March. 11th March, it's still in the north, very cold, like Scotland in Japan. And then the mega earthquake, like 9 magnitude. I don't know, you know how strong it is, but this is very strong. In Indonesia, they had an earthquake 3 times in 6 months last year. But then they had, the biggest one is 7.5 or something, but it's still very strong. So 9 is very strong. And that caused a big tsunami, and people died. So I show you what happened in the office, in a research office. Iwate is a secondary top of main island. It's very north. And I used to work somewhere here. So seaside were really hit by tsunami. And this research laboratory was here, okay? What happened? So this is what happened in March 11th. So nothing happens. Oops, it doesn't work. Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay, here comes. And so tsunami is coming. So this is what happened in this research lab. So in a minute. So they destroyed everything. The ground floor, there are computers. It's gone, you know. The seawater came in. So all the memories lost. They lost the data and everything. And the papers are contaminated with water, and you practically lost everything in terms of data. Something is wrong. Okay. So what happened at office? The ceiling panel fell down and everything, and you know, it's still cold, so old-fashioned stove, the heater was needed. And the people, one of the members in this research lab came to our university to work, so she told me what happened, and real tsunami is more than one can imagine. And this kind of things, usually people just prepare, didn't work, really. So, what is important when you had a tsunami or something? This stick memory. All the data were destroyed except this one. There are 90% of data in this traditional USB stick memory were saved. What happened in Japan, industries prohibited their employees to have this because it caused information leakage. You know, in a stick memory, you know, people would put their customers' information or what are secret information and put it in a pocket and go away. So usually industry prohibited their employees to have this memory, but this memory saved almost all the data. So I don't know. So that happens. So outline of my talk, I usually take 1.5 hours of this, but I only have got 11 minutes. So I skipped most of them so that you enjoy. So I explained what happened and the findings, support requirements, and IT requirements, and the recovery watcher. Well, this is one of the systems we created, and you know, this sort of thing. So, damage caused by disaster, that disaster was this. This is the top of the main island. And only the coast part of 3 prefectures had a major damage. Fukushima is most famous due to this nuclear power plant, yes? Because they have to evacuate the places. They can never go back. So it's a worst part. And still they have been contaminated, so it's really bad. So Tohoku region, so those regions This number of deaths is 15,000, and missing almost 3,000, something like that. And Iwate, where I used to live, is one third of the number of deaths and the missing, this sort of thing. So it's quite a big disaster. However, in Iwate, they have this sort of disaster every 30 or 40 years. It's incredible. And they repeated the same number of deaths and all that. Why is that? Local wisdom. Tendenko means you scatter away. You shouldn't take care of your family. You just go away. Go to the higher places. But actually what happened was people went back to their home to check their parents, to check their children and all that, and they died. So if you have a tsunami, you just have to run by yourself, trusting your family members will evacuate in the same way. So this wisdom didn't work. Why is that? Because they have 30 years or 40 years difference. That means the information passing, knowledge passing didn't happen generation by generation. That is the most important part of this tsunami this time. So what happened? No, you have you have a smartphone. So you always, telephone your friends, your family. So you think you can check for the safety of your family member in this case. However, this works based on the electricity power. If there is no power, this is nothing. It's no use. And this happens. There is no communication line available. Wire telephone lines, no wireless. Some temporary base station were provided, so some part it did work, but limited telephone access. There was actually no limited packet switches access. That means you could have used the internet. Why is that? Number of the customers were very small, so they can use. But if everyone else use it, maybe they have only limited access as well. And this is most important, electricity. There is no electricity. So as long as it has electricity, it works. However, if there is no electricity anymore, there is no battery or anything, everything has gone. So your information, your IT devices are working based on the electricity. If there is no electricity, you can't do really anything. You can't. So findings, what is needed was an IT support for supporters because there is no information support system for supporters like a fireman or civil servants. So it was needed. For firstly, we needed safety information and the information on sufferers, family shelter, and shelter management and the good distribution. Never be well planned because some shelter needs water. They are provided with blankets. Where another shelter which needs a blanket with water, they are provided water. So this sort of coordination was really need a communication, the good communication systems. And medical information, disaster week, this sort of information should be collected from each shelter. And there are a lot of donations from different countries or something like that. And there should be a traceability if you donate. But if you see how your money were used for victims should be traceable, that is very important. But this happens actually 8 years ago. using a wish list of Amazon and all that. And there was an IT system called the Sahana, which was created 2004 or something by the programmer in Sri Lanka, which created Sahana. It was available for use even when we had this disaster 8 years ago. However, the system was explained in all English. So firstly, we have to translate all the comments and display messages into Japanese. You know, the users of Sahana, this sort of system, are civil servants in a local government. They do seldom speak, understand English. They have to be localized into Japanese. So that took a long time. And for those ordinary people who are supporters, only know the well-known interface like Excel, they can use it. But they don't know any other things. And this disaster management system is a killer application for cloud computing because the information should be kept for long. So I think if they keep the data locally, anything happens, they will lose the data again. So this sort of things we found. And I only have 3.5 minutes, so I don't know how I can finish. But findings are what is needed for disaster management. You really need speed. You need to solve anything in a minute. Even the solution is not good. You really need to do something. And rhythm, I call it. If you need something to solve, you keep communicating various kind of people, then solution will be coming up. And trust, we needed the trust between people because in a disaster management, different people working on the same issue. And they have different perspectives. So there are a lot of disagreements, and it will delay the disaster management work. Okay. So support for Iwate. Iwate is as big as 15,000 square meters, and that is not really, but almost same as Sojip. Yes, kind of, so this big. So we are working in a university here, and the local government, main capital of the state was here. So people would go to help because there is no public transport available at the moment. So at that time, so we just moved to there by car. From here to here, it takes 3 hours. So if you go there and doing something 2 hours and come back, that is almost a day. So it's very tiring. So technical support required was people search for safety information was needed, visualization of lifetime, so 1.5 minutes. So, you know, a lot of things. And the network for information infrastructure, shelter information was needed, and volunteer support were needed. These sort of things, we need IT support. So actually we did. We have a lot of donation of PCs and the printers and cameras from the industry in Tokyo, yes? So that happens, so they send us. So we just provided those systems like internet working in PCs and this yellow part of shelters in it. Because in each shelter, there was a medical group. So doctors needed this sort of communication system to talk to the doctors here. There is a big medical school. So, you know, using the internet, the doctors speak to each other to solve the many issues. So support organization, we worked as a coordinator. And solutions were provided from industry in Tokyo or any other, organizations. And the needs and the seeds, we didn't hear from victims directly, but we heard from volunteer center and the local government people. So coordination is very important. So this is something like, I only have, it's finished. Okay. So I try to finish my talk. Okay. Next time I will talk. But this student is from Tokyo. This university, Keio University, has a very good decision. Why is that? April is the beginning of the academic term. So they are supposed to be in the school, but the head of department decided, our university, our department will start in May. So in April, you just go to North to help out the people. So we have a lot of students from that university to help out. So they are cabling of one of the shelter which were used by school, as a school, yes? So this sort of temporary situation, you just cable very loosely, because in 3 months' time, you have to take away. So this sort of cabling is disaster kind of treatment, okay? So this I don't speak this time, but the disaster communication is needed. Risk communication, you talk about the future risk, but disaster communication is something happened now, so you need to do now. So that is the disaster communication. Then we need the ICT support for disaster communications. So we have a lot of things, but I think, so this is a disaster management cycle. So it's just 1 week or 2 weeks, and then this from here to here, it's 3 months. And the shelter will be closed, and they move it to temporary housing, and it takes a year or 2 years until you have a next disaster. Okay? So as in terms of shelter, it's changing. In the beginning, I don't know what happens here if you have a disaster now. What kind of place you set up a shelter? But in Japan, usually a big sort of building, gymnasium of the school, and they put people together. So there is no privacy, no security, anything. So this is not so nice, you see? So after 3 months, it's a temporary housing. So you have a small apartment, but it's temporary, so you can't hear the noise next door. So it's not so nice. And after probably a year or two, you move to a final reconstruction house. So you should be more happier here. What happened? Here, you have more alcoholic people or commit suicide. Why is that? Until here, because the living situation is not so nice, so people try to get together in one group, in a common room or something, so talk to each other. There is a communication between residents. But here, conditionally they are happy, so they don't come out of their own room. So they have a mental problem that losing a family, and they feel very lonely, and they commit suicide. So that is a problem we need to solve in future. So we just created a recovery watcher to keep watching, and put the camera and see what happens. So we just created, and now there is a barrier-free program as well. So I think this accessibility problem should be considered in a disaster too, because this sort of inclusion issue. Inclusive issue is very important at disaster. You have to help out the people all together. So we actually created various kind of disaster management systems, and we found they are all usable for barrier-free somehow. So we are creating this time. Anyway, this is the end of my talk. And lastly, I introduce the IFIP Domain Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. I'm a chair, and we have many people to support. And we have a keyword of resilience, humanitarian, and sustainability. You heard this from Gabriel's this SDGs. Actually, disaster is directed by, they said SDG 11, but it's not true. Disaster is a human rights problem because you can't lead the normal, healthy life by yourself. It was destroyed. So in terms of that, it's SDG number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, everything will be included for disasters. So that is what happens. So we will have this conference in next. Oh. Oh. Anyway, it's finished. So we will have. Okay. Okay. Well, okay. We will have a conference in 2 weeks' time, a workshop. Okay. That's my university, current university. I don't know. Why? It's okay. This? So future event. We have this workshop at the USIS, at the ITU, the United Nations event. And in October, we will have this IT in Disaster Risk Reduction Conference in Kiev, Ukraine. So, if you have any paper to submit, you're welcome to submit. There is absolutely no deadline because we produce post-conference proceedings. Okay? Thank you very much.